picking up where we left off, which is part 2 of our ongoing series, Ways You Constantly Betray Yourself. Point number 4, laziness. Definition of laziness is the quality of being unwilling to work or use energy. Now, sometimes you are not working or using energy, not because you're unwilling. I mean, you want to, but for whatever reason, you're unable to move yourself to action. So your laziness could be from a lack of want to. You just don't want to do any work, or you're simply not doing it. Now, we'll still call that lazy. Okay, so we're going to call that lazy, even if you want to do work, but you're not doing shit. All right, that's laziness. All right, and you are betraying yourself when you do this. Why? Because energy is one of the 5 forms of investment. We have time, money, attention, energy, and focus. All right, these are the 5 forms of investment. And when you run out of energy, good news is you can get it back. You can replenish energy, unlike time, and the other 4 you can replenish. But energy is 85% of the job in life, which means if you can provide enough energy, you are 85% of the way towards achieving whatever it is you're trying to achieve, regardless of your skill set or whatever other resources you have or don't have. Many people don't get what they want in life because they simply don't put enough energy behind their efforts to get it. Not because they can't, not because they don't know something, not because they lack ability, not because they lack opportunity, not because they lack information, simply because people don't put enough energy behind their effort, if they put any effort at all. And this is the issue. This is how people betray themselves. They never put effort into trying to achieve a thing, then they don't achieve it, and they're like, well, why didn't I achieve it? Because you didn't put the effort behind it. I told you in the past that there are 3 universal truths about human beings. Number 1, people don't think. Number 2, people do not read. And number 3, people are lazy. So your opportunity is to be the opposite of those. Make sure you constantly think consciously. Make sure you read, because a lot of useful material is hidden in the written word, not in the spoken word. And use energy. All right, use energy. All right, you don't use it, you lose it. That's pretty much how it works. You don't need to save energy. When you use it, you actually get more of it. There's the law of entropy. When you're moving in, not the law of entropy, the law of inertia. When you're moving in a certain way, you tend to be able to move that way even more. It's easier to keep moving that way than it is to stop moving that way. That's the law of inertia. When you're doing nothing, it's easier to keep doing nothing. So people are simply not willing to do the work. It's as simple as that. One of the reasons people don't succeed, they just don't want to do the work. Now, sometimes if you're doing all the work, if you're lacking some resource, skill, or ability, then that might be the thing that gets in your way. But for most people, that's not the problem. Most of you don't have that problem. This is why my brand is called Work on Your Game. All right, we start with the work. And understand this is not for everybody, because as soon as somebody sees that title, Work on Your Game, if they are a lazy person by nature, they're not going to listen to something like this because they don't want to work. So me being on here and preaching to you every day about ways that you can do the work, this is not for everybody. And that's a good thing, because I'm not trying to talk to everybody, because I know not everybody is going to want to follow through on the things that I said. I'm not in the business of changing anybody's mind. You shouldn't be in that business either. I want to talk to those of you who actually want to do the work, while understanding why many people are not like us. All right, not everybody wants to do the work. And this is one of the main reasons that effort is part of the equation if you're going to be successful in life. You can be unsuccessful with no effort. You cannot be successful without putting forth effort. It's impossible. Point number 5. We're on our second part of our 2-part mini-series, How You Constantly Betray Yourself. Number 5, lacking motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is simply the impetus to action, the thing that moves you to actually do something. So when you're not motivated, it's hard to take action, it's hard to do something. So while I strongly suggest that you plug into discipline more than you plug into motivation, you have to pick one between discipline and motivation. I would suggest you go with discipline because it's much more dependable, much more consistent and reliable. That doesn't mean the motivation doesn't matter, because good news is you don't have to pick between the two. You can have both, but you just need to understand the value of each and where each one fits into the equation of your life. All right, motivation does have its place and it does have value. Even though discipline is better than motivation, doesn't mean motivation doesn't matter at all. Doesn't mean you can't use it. So motivation can actually lead to discipline. I did a whole episode talking about this, episode 1784. We had a proper formula for transmuting one energy into the other. That's how you can turn a short-term motivating energy into a long-term disciplined behavior. And again, episode 1784, you can understand how that works. Without any motivation, however, you have no motivation at all, a person may never even take the first action, so there's no way you can get yourself to discipline. So that formula that I just referred you to, you can't use that one without some level of motivation. Now, it doesn't mean you can't be extremely disciplined without having any motivation at all, but honestly, it kind of does mean that, because in order to be disciplined, you need some impetus to even start. So you kind of need some motivation, even if you're not languaging it as motivation. So for example, if you have a boss at work who says you have to fold 15 boxes every hour, and you think you can only fold 10 boxes per hour, but the boss says anybody who isn't folding 15 boxes per hour is getting fired, Now, you may not consider yourself to be motivated to keep the job, but you do want to keep the job because you need to pay your bills. So somehow, some way, you find a way to pack 15 boxes per hour or fold 15 boxes per hour. And that is the motivation. Motivation is that if you didn't do it, there was going to be a consequence, and you want to avoid the consequence. So wanting to avoid the consequence, that right there is your impetus to action. That's your motivation. So every long-term discipline starts with some form of motivation, even if we're not calling it motivation. All right, I needed some form of motivation to turn on the microphone and start recording today. Even though I have the discipline to make sure that it gets done, I still had to move myself to do it. I still had to say, okay, today, here's my schedule. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to record this show. I still have to turn the thing on. I still have to actually start talking. Even though the discipline is there, I still had to move myself to do it. I got to move myself to put it on the calendar and have the material ready and then start doing what I'm supposed to do. So when you have one, you can create the other. Now, what happened on one and the other, meaning motivation and discipline, respectively. Many people betray themselves because they have no impetus to action. In other words, you don't give yourself a real reason to do anything. And what compounds the problem is that you don't try to fix that. See, when you realize that you don't have anything moving you to do a thing, even though you want to do it, if you don't do anything to solve that problem, then you're just going to keep having the same problem. So what happens is a lot of people simply allow themselves to do nothing, be nothing, and achieve nothing. And if you do nothing, be nothing, and achieve nothing, eventually you will die. We all agree everybody eventually dies, right? And you will die as nothing or a nobody because you haven't achieved anything. You haven't become anything because didn't want to, or nor could you find the impetus to do anything. So you see how all these pieces fit together. And the compounding of the problem is that you don't try to solve it. See, all of us have periods in our lives, some more often than others, when we simply do not feel like doing anything. We know we're supposed to do something, but we don't feel like doing it and we're not doing anything. How quickly you're able to solve that problem and fix the issue of not feeling like doing something, that determines your level of success. And I don't care if you're listening to a motivational speaker, an athlete, an entrepreneur, or anyone in between. I've listened to a lot of them talk everything personal development. I've consumed a lot of this material. They all say the same thing, is that you have to be able to move yourself to action. You got to be able to move yourself to do the action when you don't feel like doing the action. I talk about it. I call it the third day. If you don't have that book, if you're watching on videos, this book that I'm pointing to right here, that red book, you can get a free copy by going to thirddaybook.com. That book is all about how you give your best effort on a day or in a moment when you don't feel like giving effort at all. That's what it's about. I've heard, again, motivational speakers talk about this. You got to be able to move yourself to action. I hear sales people and sales trainers, sales managers. I do sales training myself. Talk to people about this. You got to be able to move yourself to action and do all the follow-up phone calls you're supposed to make. You got to send all the emails you're supposed to send. You're supposed to knock on those doors. You got to make sure you knock on 10 more doors. You got to fill out the information in your CRM, submit all your paperwork. Even when you don't feel like doing it, you have to move yourself to do it. Athletes talk about this. Of course, you got to keep working on your game and practicing even when you're tired. Even if you had a game last night, even if you trained yesterday, you got to train again today. Even when you don't feel like doing it. Everyone has this situation. There are parents listening to this. There are times you don't really feel like getting out of bed to deal with your kids, but you have a impetus to action, some motivation that is moving you to do that disciplined activity. So we all need this. The problem is not when you don't feel like doing something. The problem is that when you don't feel like doing something, you don't solve the problem of not feeling like doing something. That's the actual problem. As long as you can solve that problem, then you can get over the issue of not feeling like it. Every human has times when we don't feel like it. But the most successful people at certain things are those who are able to overcome the feeling of not feeling like it and do it anyway. That's what the third day is all about. So again, thirddaybook.com, you can get a copy of that. So people allow themselves do nothing, be nothing, achieve nothing, die as nothing. And this happens more often than you think. If you look around in life, you will start seeing it more often staring you in the face. How many people that you come across who do not move themselves to become something, therefore they don't do things, and therefore they don't end up with any kind of outcomes that inspire others to either want to be like you, to appreciate the things you do, or want to have the things that you have. I talked about this when I told you the 3-step formula for influence. You want to influence people, you need those 3 things. You got to be something that people aspire to in some way. You have to do things that people appreciate in some way, or you have to have things that other people want. Ideally, all 3. But if you have at least one of the 3, then you're able to influence other people. But if you can't move yourself to go do stuff when you don't feel like doing stuff, well, who's going to want to be like you? See how that works? Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is this is part 2 of our 2-part mini series, how you constantly betray yourself. Number 6 is self-doubt. What is self-doubt? Self-doubt is a lack of belief in yourself, or what many people will just call a lack of confidence. This is a betrayal of yourself. What is confidence? Confidence is your belief in your ability to do a thing. So self-doubt means you don't have belief in your ability to do a thing. So let's backtrack again. Where does confidence come from? What's the source of confidence? This is the part that many people mess up. Many people mess this up when I ask them, where does confidence come from? This is why many people suffer from so much betrayal and self-doubt, self-betrayal and self-doubt. Confidence is a byproduct of discipline. Confidence is not a byproduct of anything else. Discipline. You want to be more confident, step up your discipline. Simple as that. The reason why many people lack confidence is because they don't understand this formula. And even if it was explained to them, they abhor discipline so much that they're unwilling to engage discipline in order to get the confidence. So this is why many people end up short of confidence. So confidence comes from discipline. And the more disciplined you are, the more confident you will be, because you already know that you have done the work, the practice, the preparation, whatever you call it. Therefore, you do not have any reason to doubt your ability to do the thing. See, the more you do the thing in practicing, preparation, getting ready, doing your homework, as I like to say, the more you've done that, the more confident you are in your ability to execute on it when it's called for. Doesn't mean you're always going to be perfect, but you can be confident even when you mess up. You can be confident in your abilities even when you come up short. Because you go into a performance or anywhere where you're being evaluated and you're not confident, you're probably not going to do too well. Now, if you're confident, at least you give yourself the opportunity to do well. Doesn't mean you always will. An athlete can be fully confident. Doesn't mean they're going to win every single game or every match or every fight. But if they go in there with no confidence, you might as well not even play. All right. So you give yourself the opportunity to win by being confident. Confidence comes from discipline. Discipline comes from structure. So if you would like to defeat self-doubt, step up your discipline, that naturally leads to confidence, which kills any self-doubt. All right, that's how it works. You want to defeat self-doubt, step up your discipline. Discipline leads to confidence. Confidence kills self-doubt. All right, that solves all your problems. I have a program called 30 Days to Discipline that will help you with this, and it's literally 30 days. It will take you less than that. You can go through it in one day if you want to. 30 Days to Discipline, go to workonyourgame.com/30, number 30, 30. Workonyourgame.com/30, get access to 30 Days of Discipline. We can solve this problem right now. This doesn't have to be some long, drawn-out process. As we talked about already in this mini-series, we want to achieve things quickly, not slowly. So let's recap today's class. This is part 2 of our 2-part mini-series, How You Constantly Betray Yourself. Number 4, laziness. Laziness is the quality of being unwilling to work or use energy. Remember, the energy is one of the 5 forms of investment. It's 85% of the job in life. You have energy, that means you have 85% of the job done. Many people come up short of their goals, not because they don't know what to do or how to do it, simply because they don't put enough energy behind that knowledge to actually execute on it. Which leads to point number 5, lacking motivation. Motivation is simply the impetus to action. Anything that can move you to start doing something, you can call that motivation. It doesn't have to be positive. A dog chasing you is a motivation for you to start running. All right, a boss telling you you're going to get fired if you don't do this work is a motivation for you to do the work. So motivation does not need to be positive. You just need to have something that can move you out of your inertia of doing nothing, stagnation, into movement, which is also known as momentum. Once you get there, it's easier to keep it than it is to drop it again and start over. Number 6, self-doubt. Lack of belief in yourself, what most people call a lack of confidence, stems from a lack of discipline, because discipline creates confidence, structure creates discipline. So if you want to step up your confidence and kill self-doubt, all you have to do is step up your level of discipline. Follow your discipline and get some motivation to start using the disciplines. Use the disciplines. That leads to confidence. Now you can go out there and do your thing. And the more you produce and perform, the less likely you're ever going to experience self-doubt. Doesn't mean it won't still happen, but in the future, if you experience self-doubt about something that you've already done, now you have a track record that you can look to and say, okay, well, I know I've done this before. Since you've already done it before, that can help assuage some of your anxieties, fears, and concerns about if you can do it again. You did it before, you can do it again. And that's based on you actually taking action, doing something, achieving a goal that was stated by you. And now that you've achieved it, you can always, again, use that over and over and over again as social proof, if you will, social proof for yourself that I am successful. I can make this happen. I can win. I can succeed. The more proof you have of you doing it yourself, the more confident you're going to be in yourself. It's one thing getting confidence from somebody else. It's another thing getting confidence from yourself, because you know that you've already been on this road and you were successful. Okay, then you have no reason to doubt yourself in the future. And if any doubt happens to creep in, you can use your past, your resume, as a shield for that doubt. All that said, make sure, did I recap? Yeah, just recap. Okay, so make sure you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you can get access to 30 Days of Discipline, Bulletproof Mindset, All of my training materials, I gave you a link to get the 30 Days Discipline by itself. If you want to get that course on its own, you can. If you want to get access to all of our courses, all of our trainings, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's also where you can get access to live coaching calls from me and with me directly, asking me direct questions, getting direct answers straight to you and for you. That's always a member of our university. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all.